Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Arabella. I hope you're living your best life when this video finds you. So I am super excited today because I'm finally going to be doing a video on what a contagonist is, why you definitely need one in your novel, so stay tuned. So when we talk about the contagonist, a lot of people have never even heard what it is. So it's an archetype like the antagonist, like the protagonist, and the term was created by, I'm such an awful YouTuber. I don't have their names, but I will definitely link it all below. I think it was a pair of people who created this system called Dramatica. So Dramatica is a novel writing assisting software. It's not like Scrivener. It's where you pretty much learn story from this very scientific and methodical process. It's an extreme learning curve, and I was never able to completely grasp the Dramatica principle, but one of the things they talk about in that system is how every single character an archetype has a pair that they come together, and I will insert the little picture of the chart that I'm referring to right there. And what this is, as you see, the protagonist and the antagonist are opposing forces. So when we're talking about the contagonist, its opposing force is the mentor character, which we all know, we're all very familiar with. So when we're talking about the contagonist, then how can nobody know what this character is? And it's really funny because typically in almost every well-written story, the contagonist is there, they're just not identified. And two, many writers actually write this character in without knowing that it's the contagonist. And so yeah, I'm here to shed some light on this lovely character. I'm looking very, orange, gothy, spooky, and it's Halloween time, so I am totally in it. I'm gonna be playing the part. So that's a brief description of what the contagonist is, and so now I'm gonna tell you what the contagonist isn't, and it is not the antagonist. So typically when we see the contagonist, it is as typically they're opposing the hero and the protagonist in some way. And they're often mistaken for the antagonist a lot, especially early on in the story. You could maybe even call them a red herring, but they're definitely not the main opposition to the story goal and the hero's goal or personal goal. They're not that main story driving opposition that the antagonist is, but they are also fighting against the hero typically. Where you can see the difference is that the motivations between antagonist and contagonist are different, even if they're on the same side. So let's say you have a big baddie who's the antagonist and maybe his henchman is the contagonist, and they're on the same side and it seems like they have the same goals, but the contagonist probably has something else going on in the background to where the antagonist's major goal, only goal, is to really oppose the protagonist. So do not make that mistake. You're not going to have dual antagonists. That's not, no. And two, a contagonist could potentially turn into the antagonist if the main antagonist is cut off, but I'll get into that a little bit later. So what does the mentor have to do with this? Why did Dramatica put the mentor as opposed to the contagonist? Like, on its face, I feel like it doesn't make a ton of sense, but once you kind of get the explanation, it makes a little more sense. So the mentor character to the hero is what's good. They are the example. They are whom the hero learns from. They are, the path of good, the righteous way. And that's very important in story, but that's not really how humans work, is it? So where the contagonist comes in is they're like the mentor's foil. There's a foil for the protagonist, And there's also a foil for the mentor. And what this shows the hero is maybe not who they should be, which is the mentor side, the light side, but maybe a darker side. Maybe a side that they want to go down, they shouldn't go down, but the Contagonist represents maybe what would happen to them if they did go down that darker path. And it really leads into more darker psychology and really who your character is and what their misbeliefs are and their truths are and what type of story you have. But it's super compelling, and you can see how the light and the dark of mentor and Contagonist is like really difficult for the hero to deal with, you know, temptation versus, you know, doing the right thing, and, you know, the good and the bad, and, you know, writing is always about those type of bigger things, but it's really personified here with these two characters. So I think that's really cool. Okay, so next, the Contagonist really has such a great potential for a damn good character arc. So, you know, typically our protagonist or hero gets that big arc, and they get to go up and down, and they are, you know, hitting their face in the dirt or whatever. You know, they really go through a lot, and sometimes a lot of other characters are left out of having such a good arc, which people love. They love to see character arcs that aren't just with the hero. So what is cool about the Contagonist is that they typically, like I said earlier, are in some type of opposition to the hero or the story goal or something. And if you want, they could become an ally, they could become a maybe ally, or they could stay on the side of the opposition. You could do it all three ways, but with two of those, you could still get a dramatic arc with this character versus them just sitting there being like a paper doll, you know? So when we talk about where a Contagonist can go in a story, like I said, they can go one of three ways. They can remain on the opposition. They could kind of be half in, half out. Like the audience and the characters don't really know, are they on our side? Are they going to screw us over? What the hell are they doing? Or they can completely switch over. And I have some examples for you. So, my first example of them remaining on the bad side is in Lord of the Rings with the character Saruman. So he is definitely on the side of the opposition, and he's doing a bunch of stuff to try to get Sauron into power, but he has his own motivations at play. He wants the power. He's very power hungry, and he never really gets out of that. He kind of stays stuck in that, but he is definitely the Contagonist, especially in the Fellowship of the Ring. I mean, we could kind of maybe move over to Gollum as the new Contagonist in the other two, but if we're just talking about the Fellowship of the Ring and that one, that's what he is. You know, Tolkien wrote his Contagonist to stay on the side of evil. You know, Gollum could maybe teeter on the edge of like, ooh, the I don't know if he's really on our side, but I mean, I think everyone with a brain in their head can pretty much see that Gollum's gonna screw them over no matter what. So the next character is in Harry Potter, and if you know who it is, pause the video and comment down below, okay? It is Snape. So Snape is one of those characters that's a Contagonist throughout the entire thing, and up until the very end, where nobody knows, is he good, is he bad, is he with Harry, is he with Voldemort, like, what, why, you know? And his motivations are, you know, we don't even really know what his motivations are. He's very hard to read, but I think that's played out really well, because the audience hates that, but they love that, you know? They want to they want to try to figure out the puzzle of, is this character on our hero's side, or are they just messing with their heads and trying to get something that we can't see that they want? So that's super compelling. And then our last example is of the character Eritrea in the Shannara Chronicles. So this is a show, it's not as popular as the other two, but it's a show that first aired on MTV of Terry Brooks' The Sword of Shannara series, and it's based off the book The Elfstones of Shannara. And in this book, the character Eritrea, she's definitely the antagonist, and she does screw over our heroes maybe 1 or 2 times. And she keeps on coming back into the story, and you're like, oh god, she's screwed them over, she screwed them over, she screwed them over. And then she starts to kind of get more involved in the storyline, and it's more personal for her, and you see she starts to turn. There is a point where you really question her as the audience, but then you see it where she's completely in. She's on the hero's side. No, it's obvious. She's on their side. So she makes that complete arc of going from bad person to an ally. And that's what's so cool, is you get that potential ally, and that's huge. That's way more interesting than just introducing a bunch of characters and then being like, you know, just bloop, 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 ally, you know, like, it's just more compelling. It's cool. It just, people like that because, yeah, it's a big workaround and a roundabout and a, you know, the stupid things that you have to drive through where it's like a circle? Is that a roundabout? I think it's a roundabout. But it's just, it makes more sense because it causes tension, and it causes that, like, ooh, is she not? Like, who knows? And if you haven't watched that show, I definitely recommend it. It's on Netflix. I really like it. Terry Brooks was one of my favorite authors back in the day, and it's super fantasy-y, and it takes place in a post-apocalyptic Seattle, so that's cool. So my last point, I want to talk about how the contagonist has to behave, and it may seem like a requirement for them to ultimately make a change, therefore you can create a better arc for them, but that's not a requirement. Like in the examples before, they don't always turn. They don't always make it to the hero's side, and that's totally fine. That's not the main reason for them being there. The main reason for them to be there, you know, it's all the things above, you know, it gives the antagonist a break. It can give, you know, a dual opposition to the story, and which creates more depth and more conflict and more stakes and more tension, you know. So it has a lot of purpose, even if they don't become an ally, even if they don't get a cool arc like they would if they were to come over to the hero's side. But it's a very important character to have, and it only makes the story more rich and more vivid and more like tense, and that's what you want. You want your readers to not know what this character is up to and why they're doing what they're doing and all of it. So I implore you to start looking for contagonists in movies, in books, in TV shows, wherever we see fiction. Start looking for them, and they will pop up all over the place. I know when I first learned about it, I was just like, wait, what? Who is this? So do it, look for it. If they're in your story already, comment below and let me know. And if they're not, write them in. Like, figure it out, write them in. And if they're not in there, I would definitely start with figuring out if you want them to come to the side of good, if you want them to maybe be in the middle ground, or if you want them to stay on the bad side. So start there, and then you can pretty much figure it out from there. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this one. It's been a very popular one on the blog, which I will link down below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click the little bell so you're notified when I post. And yeah, join the army. Thank you for sticking in with me, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye, guys.